All right. Welcome to Kubernetes SIG Cloud Provider for December 18th, 2024. I believe this is our last meeting of 2024. That seems plausible. Um, I think we're just going to jump in and start off with intros from anybody who is new or wants to update their, ethereal affiliation, etc. So anybody want to unmute, say hi?
Hi.
Hello,
Hey,
right there. Okay, fantastic. I don't think we have a ton to talk about today, maybe a little bit. Um, well, Miko, you have an issue that you linked, and I'll drop it in the chat as well. And if you want to go ahead and share and show us anything about this, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. This is like really, really minor. I was just going through, I was going through old issues and like checking things on in my GitHub emails and whatnot. And so, yeah, like I had come across this issue. And Bridget, this is something you and I were working through as like, I think it was just an administrative task that we were trying to clean up.
Oh yeah,
I'll
if
just,
yeah, if you want to open it and kind of show people. So the the backstory here is the Kubernetes project actually moved a bunch of their mailing lists. And there was a period, I guess it was like, wow, a while ago, where I had volunteered for us to be one of the early teams to make that move. But there was some manual stuff that needed to happen on the back end. And then profit. I forget everything until right this second. I'm like, I'm not, I think we need to talk to possibly Mr. Bobby Tables or possibly um Sig Contribex. Because I know that there was some like Contribex threads over on Slack about it. This could be one that we can chase down during the holiday break. Also, I love the fact that Chris is wrapping presents in the background. That's very seasonal. I love it. But yeah, I think that, but to the point of this issue, I don't believe, unless Elmiko or Walter have come up with any other answers, I don't believe this is self-service. Like, I think we have to opt in and say it's time, but I'm not 100% sure at this point if Sig Contribex is running this migration or if, I don't know. Do either of you have any more insights about the move for mailing lists from Google Groups to Case.io lists?
No, I mean, I was wondering, like, is there something else we need to do here? But I think the what we need to do is probably, like you said, we probably just need to reach out to Bob again and just see like what's going on. And if is there something else we need to do? Because I think we've done everything from our side. I don't know, is the group, is it moved to the new address? I don't know.
Well, I don't think it moves without us. Yeah, like I I've had zero bandwidth to think about this, unfortunately. And like I think the follow-up, I can take the follow-up, but I'm probably not going to do it till January. Literally, I get in a car tomorrow and drive to Wisconsin. Like, yes, Walter.
A bit of a tangent on this one, but
Oh, great. Love tangents.
um, usually I try and stay on top of it, but I've been a little off. The Google group, like when an email goes out, I usually get one or two every time. I get one or two bounces, and so I know I haven't done it in a month or two. Is go and
Mhm.
prune the Google group. So we probably have things that we probably want to prune before we go ahead and pull the trigger you're talking about, Bridget.
I feel like there's a great deal of MacGuffins here that I can't even address what the migration looks like. I don't know what gets moved. I don't know.
I don't either, but I mean, there's no point in moving people that, you know.
Sure, sure. I know you're 100%, you're 100% right, but I don't
What's the
know.
pruning that you do, Walter? Is it like, uh, I just,
I mean, so every time, I don't know if you get them, maybe I just get them because I'm an admin for the Google group, but every time there's an email goes out to the SIG Cloud Provider group, there are a couple of bounces. There are a couple of email addresses that bounce because someone's left a company in that email's whatever. And so I'll go in and I'll prune them off the list.
Okay, so we have manual management occurring right now. And to your point, Walter, which I think this is a valuable point, is whatever that manual management is, it may or may not be able to happen in the future with whatever is going on with the new mailing list. So maybe that's an open question, is what will the cleanup of the new mailing list look like? I
And
don't
there's
think we
no
have
clue.
information. Yeah, I don't think we have
100%.
information about that currently. Sorry?
Yeah, I agree with that. But I was also just thinking we can also we should probably coordinate and do a quick cleanup of what we know to be problematic before we actually
Sure.
do the port.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I am messaging Mr. Bobby Tables right now, but again, I just do not know if I'm going to get. I'm trying him on Slack because GitHub notifications are a really good way to not get anybody to pay attention to you, right? Okay. And we'll see what he says. But yeah, I can definitely take the action item on that in January. But yeah, today is the finish absolutely everything before it is time to go. So, okay.
cool, yeah,
And
sounds good.
um, let's see. Uh,
Gesundheit.
Indeed. Um, okay, I know we don't have other items on here, but I am actually interested because Chris has joined from the ether, but I know that your former employer had wound down some of their offerings that may pertain to this SIG. And an unrelated topic had me thinking about, shall we do some sort of go through and check with everyone who has a listed cloud provider to make sure that they are still cool and want to maintain it and have active contacts currently and have listed people who are the point of contact and exist? Like, I'm just kind of not just Chris in general, but like that does come to mind just because I'm seeing you. But yeah, what do we think about that? So the specific question before we go to Almiko, the specific question to Chris is your former employer assigning someone else to work on that or assigning zero to work on that? Or what is the thought there?
So my former boss is still there, and he
Mm.
has access to all the things. That's Marcus Johansson. He
Mhm.
has thought about this stuff, but I don't think he's going out of his way to just clean it all up. I could reach out to him if that's important. Um, but to my knowledge right
It
now,
only,
it's
yeah.
kind of a middle ground. Like
Yeah.
the service is still live till for a year and a half, so they're not going to just delete everything because people might be
Yeah.
using it, right? Um, I do
Yeah.
remember when I moved our stuff into the SIG that the documentation I went through specifically mentions that like if you leave your stuff for like I think 1 year, you guys could just delete it and kick everything out as not maintained. So I
Mm,
think the notification groundwork is there if we want to do regular pruning, but now it's a question of do we want to? I don't
yeah.
think Equinix is going to necessarily remember to clean it all up because
Yeah.
whoever does.
And I'm not even wondering about pruning right this minute. I'm kind of thinking like, oh, there's something for a provider that may stop maintaining it, as you're saying. What if there's a CVE or some sort of reason that they need to be notified? And then if we don't have any plan to notify them, then that kind of becomes an interesting question.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't want to necessarily leave it out there on GitHub, filling people's computers with vulnerabilities if, yeah. So that might be the like, hey, there's not necessarily a dead man switch, but there might be like a proof of life. Are we maintaining this? Yeah, anyway, that was my thinking, but like, let's go to El Nico for sure, because he has some insights here.
Yeah, so I think this is related to a topic that we had been discussing a little bit previously, or at least it has overlap, I think, with topic about when we were discussing like different the load balancer operator from AWS and who has ownership and maintainership over these things. I think this is where I have an action item that I'm following up on still to send an email to the Kubernetes dev mailing list and also to the cloud provider mailing list, because I would like to continue the discussion about ownership and maintainership and whatnot, because, part of what I'm doing here, what you're seeing me going through, all these cloud providers that we're seeing here are technically owned by the CNCF. And it
Right.
is our SIG's responsibility to be looking after these and maintaining them. Now, traditionally, it's very common to have people who work for these actual companies behind these things to be on the maintainer list, but it is not required. And in fact, we should. I guess we're going to have to think about, to the point that Bridget is making, going forward. Does the SIG need to step up and be doing more active auditing to say, okay, these cloud providers could probably use some help, or these contacts are out of date. Tangentially, but related to this, we received an email about the security contacts for one of the cloud providers. And so that's something that we're trying to work through now in some of the back channels as well. So I think, yes, I think this is a good topic to bring up next year. I just wanted to say I'm going to send an email probably in January to try and get the next conversation about, ownership and maintainership and making sure that our SIG is able to be, healthy with respect to these code bases that we have. So if we need to make sure that, like, the SIG has, kind of some level of ownership in all these things, or is listed in a way that we could, effectuate changes that need to happen, I think that's probably something we want to consider in the new year. But in general, I totally agree with the motion to kind of audit these things and whatnot, and become better aware of what's going on there.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. I think we have to walk that line, and this goes to the entire Kubernetes code base and maintainability of the whole code base as well. Is like, I think KK has done a pretty good job in recent years of segmenting out ownership of specific code paths and saying, for this release, these people are on this tree. And I think we probably need to be a little bit less hands-off, perhaps, and maybe a little bit more ensuring that we at least have somebody who is currently answering email, even if meeting times or Slack don't work very well for them. Yeah. Sorry, the sun is coming out from behind the clouds. So I got to deal with that. It's too bright to see.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, in general, I tend to agree. I think, like, let's get the email going in January, and let's have the next level of this discussion about, like, where does the SIG's, kind of involvement land, and how do we improve these communications, right? Like you said, like, how do we know when an email is maybe not being responded to, or someone has stopped working on a project, or even if we understand that a provider might be changing the nature of their service such that it might not exist at some point in the future. And, how do we make sure that users who see these repositories understand these things? So yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah. Right. And then by the way, when you say we're going to talk about this in January, I should clarify that I'm looking ahead, and 2 weeks from today is New Year's Day. We will not be talking about this January 1. I assume none of us will be in this meeting January 1, and we will cancel it. But January 15th will be meeting. So
Yeah, and I can't imagine we'll have the discussion January 15, but if I can get the email out before the 15th, that'll be good.
yeah. And I'm going to just put, like, no January 1 meeting.
It's a good reminder.
Just in case somebody tries to come to the meeting and then comes to the doc, let's make sure it's clear that that's not happening. All right. What else do people have that they would like to talk about?
I did, if we don't have any other agenda topics for today, I did notice that it looks like we've got a new triage issue. I'm not sure it's
Great.
for us or not, but
Let's take a look.
so unrealistic high CPU usage and metric support after uploading kubelet to 131. So I mean, this doesn't sound like cloud provider, but you know,
Metric server. Interesting.
I'll increase the size here a little bit.
So what is it? When you scroll down to cloud provider, what does it say? Okay.
AWS. So
Hmm.
it might be worthwhile to tag like Kirthan in here, or
I mean,
So the weird part to this one is I don't know EKS or AKS that well, but I do believe this is actually actually done by the cloud provider. So I know, like, not SIG Cloud Provider, but the actual cloud provider. I know GKE has its own metrics server that we use for porting like the Prometheus metrics into, Google's preferred metric system. So
okay, that seems to indicate like at the very least we should probably ping like Dims and Kirthan and they can get some more people on.
yeah, I mean, a lot of it's going to depend. I mean, I think it might be worth at least tagging SIG node and SIG instrumentation, because we don't know if the problem here is on the metrics that are generated or what happens when they're consumed.
yeah, I'm kind of wondering if this, to your point, if this is more provider, not cloud provider, but not SIG cloud provider, but if it's provider specific, they might need to end up in the support triage for their provider, but
It might, yeah. I mean, the other possibility here is that it's a reporting problem, in which case I would look at either SIG instrumentation or SIG node.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, given the information that's there, I'm not sure that we can diagnose that.
Yep.
What did you say? SIG reported?
Instrumentation.
Instrumentation.
And what was the
Or
other
SIG.
one? That was it? Just instrumentation?
SIG node.
SIG node, okay. We already have SIG node on this.
Okay, cool.
I guess like we could tag SIG instrumentation as well. But we won't mark this as triage accepted yet because I think we need to understand the problem a little more.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, that was the only issue I think I saw there on the needs triage label. The other one is from back in last year. I guess like might as well quickly check the periodics just to see if anything's going on here. That is cool to see. We like to see greens. Looks like something big happened there. All right, I think generally this is probably looking pretty good for us. Except for this one random failure.
So there's one thing I would like to actually bring up. If you go look at that failure, well, actually, yeah, even this page is fine. I don't know I don't think this is something we can unilaterally decide, but I do question the usage of cube up.
Hmm.
Uh, cube up is a nightmarish shell script that no one wants to maintain.
Tell us how you really feel.
I would, but then this wouldn't. I'd be violating our terms of conduct. Uh, no one wants to maintain cube up. I do wonder if at some point we should be broaching the subject, maybe with like SIG testing. I don't think they want to maintain it, and maybe someone like, I don't know, cluster lifecycle, about switching from cube up to something that someone actually wants to maintain, like maybe cops.
Yes, I thought there was also some discussion about using cluster API to generate clusters because that uses like kubeadm under all the covers and everything. I thought there had been some discussion about that, but that would be an interesting point to follow up on. And yes, I concur with you about getting away from kube up. I thought part of the kube test 2 motion was going to get away from that, but I guess perhaps not in this case.
Yeah, so I think we just need something that I mean, the other thing is I think part of it is, and I'm going to hang my head here in shame, but you notice that was cluster GCP cube up. I'm not sure how well maintained cluster API is for GCP. I know COPS is pretty well maintained for GCP, but
Yeah, the cluster.
let's have the discussion, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to unilaterally say no to cluster API. I just want to get away from cube
Right,
up.
right. No, I mean, I do know the cluster API GCP provider is maintained. Red Hat uses it a lot, and we do a lot there as well. So,
Okay, cool.
yeah, but I think your larger point is well taken. Like we should expand the discussion here and maybe talk with SIG testing and SIG cluster lifecycle and just learn like maybe they already have stuff in the works that they're thinking about or something.
Hey, I did put a note in there, by the way, that we did submit a testing talk for the maintainer track of KubeCon EU. I don't know if Elmiko, you want to talk a little bit more about that, just to kind of have it on the record.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it's good. Yeah, good to keep everyone in the loop. We did submit a talk for the maintainer track at KubeCon London. Apologize, to everyone here that we didn't have kind of a full community discussion, but we were kind of up against the deadline and I had forgot to bring it up on the meeting before that. But we proposed a deep dive into testing. So this is kind of a follow-up in some ways to the discussion or to the talk that we had in Salt Lake City. And the intention here is that we gave kind of a high level view of what we wanted to do with testing in Salt Lake City. And in London, we'll go into kind of the deep specifics of what does it mean to do all this work and kind of expose some of the details about what makes it complicated, what are the problems we're trying to solve, and then like how do we think we could solve them. So I it would definitely be beneficial to us to have those discussions with SIG testing and lifecycle to understand the future from their side of things. But I realize this is like a really tangled web because we're talking about testing, we're talking about cloud providers, we're also talking about how do the individual providers become involved with the CNCF so that we could run things on their infrastructures. So there's like a lot of different you know, topics that come up here. And I tend to be a little optimistic about it. I would love to see a future where it's easy for providers to, donate credits and then we're running, what at Cluster API or COPS or whatever it is to create, clusters on these different infrastructures and run all this testing. So that's what we've proposed for London.
All right, great. And then I took a note that you had pointed out a couple of places where we need to discuss it with SIG testing and SIG cluster lifecycle. This sure sounds to me like some conference-driven development coming up because we should have those meetings while we're prepping the talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm gonna, I don't know where I'm gonna find the time, but in the new year, like I'm hoping to do some crossovers into SIG testing and just try and push this a little more there. Like I've been working on an enhancement, that's going slowly at the moment, but yeah, I'm hopeful. We'll see what happens.
Right. That sounds like I feel like all I'm doing this week is writing checks for January me to cash, which but that sounds great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I definitely writing against the future meeting cache is definitely, it makes sense.
Right. Yes, exactly. I think future us is gonna be asking where all these meetings and choices came from. What else, if anything, should we be looking ahead to? So we're talking about January 15th. Um, which suddenly sounds sort of familiar. I might actually personally have a conflict that day, but maybe not. Maybe I'll be here. That could be great. Hopefully we'll see you all January 15th. What else, if anything, should we talk about here today?
I think I said everything I wanted to say, so thank you.
So I'm going to talk in code for a sec. I apologize.
Mhm.
So Bridget, there was a point you and I discussed that we needed to chat with Almico
Oh,
during before, and I'm not sure if we need to
yeah.
talk to Almico
Let's
first.
let's talk to Elmiko after this meeting because hey Elmiko, after this meeting, if you want to stay and chat with me and Walter about something almost entirely unrelated, but the extended Kubernetes ecosystem universe excitement. That could be awesome.
The extended Kubernetes cinematic universe, is that what you're talking?
You know it. So yeah, we'll
Awesome.
pick separately about that.
Cool.
Uh, anything else? Right? I think it's a wrap. We'll close this out and talk to you folks over on Slack and the all of the skies that are blue and everything else. Have a happy, merry. All right.
Thanks. You too, Bridget.
Bye.